As people living on 80-10-10, low-fat, raw vegan lifestyle, do we need to bother ourselves with learning about nutrition at all? Or caring about nutrition, or worrying about nutrition, or even knowing about nutrition? Do we need to know?
Sure.
So can we talk about freezing foods and the implications?
Well,
Mine frozen.
I mean, from what I've read, there is a major problem with freezing fruits, and especially in some of the northern cities this winter, they have been having a real problem. They're nowhere to sleep and freezing out there on the street. It's a hard life for some of those fruits.
There's still some apples laying on the ground, and it's
the shelters are full, and there's fruits just freezing. Imagine this shivering fruits, poor things.
Poor little fruit. Poor little fruit.
I knew it was a long-winded.
Can we talk about freezing
Maybe
fruit?
you live without it.
the way I could tell it was Doug started to tell his answer too quickly.
Uh-huh.
When you actually
He jumps onto it without
What's your
actually
question
thinking.
about freezing fruits?
Its implications, enzymes,
Okay,
nutrients,
yes,
cell
of course.
structure, all sorts of stuff.
There's a million questions that we don't know enough about anatomy yet to really discuss what we want to talk about. We're so at the beginning of structure and function, but we want to jump to the processes, and it's exactly how the wool is pulled over everybody's eyes, because people can tell anybody anything and they buy it because they don't know the basics to even realize that they've been fooled.
That's right.
So I'm gonna take the speaker's privilege, Frederick, of saying to you, that's a great question, and not throw it back in your face and say, tell us
Research.
tomorrow,
Right.
but instead sneak in a more relevant question. Might be, as people living on 80-10-10, low-fat, raw vegan lifestyle, do we need to bother ourselves with learning about nutrition at all? Or caring about nutrition, or worrying about nutrition, or even knowing about nutrition? Do we need to know?
Sure.
And my answer would be no. Absolutely not.
Not to know anything?
Nothing. We could be like squirrels, or deer, or
Okay.
birds, or fish, or whoever else eats. And just eat.
Okay.
Sleep when you're sleepy,
Yes.
eat when you're hungry, move when you feel like,
Reproduce when the season is good and there's not.
reproduce every chance you get. You know? At which point you would really need to know nothing until you're trying to justify your response or explain something to someone else other than, hey, just do it.
If you don't know.
Because they're not ready to accept, oh, just do it. They won't just do it, without needing to know the answers to questions, all those super important questions like, where do you get your protein? Right? They want to know. And so,
You don't need to answer that.
so do we want to know what happens when you freeze, or do we want to know the implications of freezing? Are we thinking in terms of freezing as a culinary skill? Are we thinking of it in terms of nutrition? Are we thinking in terms of the ecology of the planet, overall sustainability of the process? I would say you need to narrow the parameters of your question, or was actually the question all of the above, and then some?
I'm curious about its implications in regards to
You'll get
nutrition.
It's
Is the digestive process being in some way influenced by consuming a fruit frozen. Not only through alterations in terms of nutrition of the fruit itself, but also how does the body react to something that is very cool, and are there actually enzymes maybe missing from the fruit? Does the body care about cell integrity, cell wall integrity? Are sugars more rapidly absorbed by fruit that has weak cell wall structure? Calls for freezing.
As opposed to blending?
As opposed to eating a whole, fresh, ripe, raw organic fruits and vegetables. Freezing is just one process.
With chewing or without chewing?
With adequate, reasonable amounts of chewing.
Doesn't that break the cell walls?
No, not nearly in to the same degree as processing does. Philosophy.
Frederick, why do cell walls break when fruit is frozen?
I guess it's because when water is freezing, crystals form, and crystals are very hard. And so I imagine that cell walls disintegrate, destroyed by crystallization. Or maybe it's expansion. You know, the fruit is freezing at different rates, and it's not perfectly homogeneous state, transient state, but it's
Homogeneous?
homogeneous. Yeah. So I would imagine.
Okay, was that two answers? Or did I misunderstand?
Seemed like a couple options. But it is.
So let's go back to the question. Why are cell walls damaged when fruit is frozen? Which of those answers do you want me to use?
I think it's crystallization.
And the way that we would designate the response would be, give me another answer.
Is it a bursting?
Yeah,
Cell walls burst. Why?
Because of the water in the fruits expanding.
Expanding when it freezes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's hard crystals, but it's the expansion. The sac that is the cell wall simply cannot contain expanded water
Right.
because fruit already has the darn.
It's
The
packed
water
already.
is so packed in there, you can bounce a blueberry off the floor. It's so packed to its elastic limits. Okay, it's so packed to its elastic limits that if you're going to expand the water, I mean, like, at some point, what's the cell wall made out of?
Lipid? No. Not really. A kind of lipid? No.
Support that. Can you support that?
Oh, it's
I mean,
cholesterol,
I
right?
can hold it up.
Is it
I could
cholesterol?
support it. The cell.
So it's made out of lipids. So the fruit is full of fat.
No.
In
But it
every cell
doesn't
wall.
have like a phospholipid layer? Like,
Yeah.
maybe.
I think cholesterol is used. It's a major.
So plants are full of cholesterol.
No.
Sorry, what?
Plants are full of
It's part
cholesterol.
of the makeup.
Oh,
Not full.
Every cell of
So
every
maybe they-
plant.
No, I don't know.
plants don't contain cholesterol
I
at
don't
all.
remember the
Is that
cell.
what
Plants do
about?
contain
I
cholesterol.
don't remember the cell
It's a
wall.
myth. You learned a fallacy,
Oh,
It doesn't contain very much.
as if it was true. It's negative knowledge.
there you
Negative
go.
knowledge, that's a great one.
Like, yeah, it's not part of the cell wall.
Plants do contain cholesterol, but it's about 1/1,000,000th as much as animals.
Not like
One million.
Roughly, I've done the math. It's about 1/1,000,000th as much. Therefore, if you live to be, let's say you ate 1,000 meals a year.
you'd have one.
That means some breakfasts you skipped, but mostly you had breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you had 1,000 meals a year.
I guess it's not within.
Are we okay with that? 1,000 meals a year?
Yeah.
And you lived for 1,000 years. You would eat 1,000,000 meals, because 1,000 thousands is 1,000,000.
And 1 meal.
So if one meal of animal products contains as much cholesterol as 1,000 years worth of eating plants at every meal. That's about the equation. 1/1,000,000th. Why did we used to teach that there was no cholesterol in plants? If in fact there is cholesterol in plants.
Because it's such a small amount, no one lives 1,000 years.
That what?
Because it's such a small.
No, not because it's such a small that no one lives 1,000 years. Why did we not teach that there was cholesterol in plants? You can find it in all kinds of nutrition books. No cholesterol in plants.
It's just easier to leave it out.
Nope. No idea why? Because up until recently, we didn't have the technology to discover cholesterol in plants. Our technology was not that sensitive.
That's cool.
Now it's sensitive enough to find it. Hi guys, Dr. Doug Graham here, author of the 80-10-10 diet, and I always give you snippets of information off the top of my head, but I'd love to give you some snippets and answer your questions. If you just send us questions, I'll answer them. I would love to have your questions. They often mean more to you than the things I present, so send me your questions and I will make a video with an answer. Looking forward to hearing from you. Dr. Doug Graham reminding you to go to health.